Let's talk here about Daniel Andrews and back to the Australian stuff here. Now, we are barrelling in on a couple of weeks to go until we're supposed to hit the next mark of when things get slightly better in Victoria. Now, remember, I told you last week when the latest updates were in place that most likely we were talking about mid to end of October for serious restrictions to disappear. Well, the curfew's gone, you still need the full reasons to leave your house. And amazingly, despite the fact that we are now down from the hundreds to the dozen cases or so, we're still above that 5 cases a day for 14 days. That'll mean you get to freely leave your house, freely go back to work. Unbelievably, after this process being in place in Melbourne since July, people have been in their homes since July, locked down for a couple of months in between, there is a chance that even if things get slightly better in a couple of weeks' time, that one of the most restrictive things that exists in Victoria would still continue. You won't be able to leave more than 5 kilometres from your house. When asked about it directly today, the chairman, well, unsurprisingly, just like he was before the hotel inquiry, he didn't know.
Again, there'll be a time when that can come off, but exactly when that is, or it might be extended, when that is, we can't be certain now. But I just, we've tried to be as clear as we can.
You poor buggers watching us in Melbourne. Light at the end of the tunnel, done so to change the subject, and then the light, of course, gets kicked further and further away. This thing is only as a result the second time around because of the failure of the state government. They are supposedly getting on top of it. We were down to single digits last week, then it was back to over between, 10 and 20. And now we're still talking about potentially passing through the parliament laws to give clipboard carriers arrest powers. Why? You're supposedly beating this thing. The 5K rule, you would think, is something that you might start thinking about lifting even before people are allowed to go back to work. But no. Poor people will not be allowed to go to the beach. Such is the way that it works in the Socialist Republic. I look forward to talking about that in a moment or two's time, as well as a story that, because of all of the other noise and all of the other massive news that is around the world, you probably didn't see much about this, but I did today. Some details about just how deep Daniel Andrews went when it came to the Belt and Road deal that he was doing with China. Now, put simply, why do we call him Chairman Dan? We call him Chairman Dan because of how obsequious he is towards China. Here he is in China a couple of years ago. Well, The Age had a fascinating story this weekend, and I wouldn't normally say that about that lefty rag, but here we go. China's gateway, Daniel Andrews' Belt and Road pitch to Beijing, complete with a picture of him and the panda. Now, they did a Freedom of Information request that was 12 months ago that they asked for key details of what was being said in the meetings that he had in China. This is that Freedom of Information request. You can see, as I say, that it is dated the first week of October last year. 3rd of October 2019. Eventually, these things have been handed over. And Andrew says that he wanted Victoria to become China's gateway to Australia. The Premier, according to the article, directly quoted some of China's biggest Belt and Road Initiative companies, including one that was subsequently blacklisted by the US government. He says that the Victorian market will be as accessible as possible. My government will welcome your participation and do what it can to facilitate your success. That's why this guy wants to fight it, because he was all in. In negotiating terms, he bared his ass, one and truly, to the Chinese. Whatever you want, you can have. He went with the begging bowl to China. They've taken a year to tell us what actually happened in those meetings. 1 full year. Well done to the reporters who did not take no for an answer. Because, as we know, be it hotel quarantine, parliamentary inquiries or the press conference all day, every day, no is not an acceptable answer.